Can we hear you?
Yes.
I can't see you.
What? You can't hear me?
Oh, no, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Eli, can you hear me?
Yes.
Go. Let's go.
Okay. Are we going to think positive that this is going to work?
Yes, it's going to work beautifully. Let's just do this.
Can we hear you?
Yes.
Okay.
What's that?
Okay. All right. Let's go. L'chaim. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second Farbrengen. The second Farbrengen, yes. Yisroel, how you doing?
Baruch Hashem, it's freezing cold here in Colorado. Otherwise, I'm doing great.
Okay. I give you all of our California brachas. All of our good weather should go to you. We don't mind if we have a little bit of rain. We're actually going to have a lot of rain next week, so you can have all the sunshine that we should be having.
It's snowing here, but okay, no.
L'chaim, Yisroel.
Time, Eli.
All right. So, of all the songs that they made for the Rebbe's birthdays, which one is your favorite?
Sure. Well, no, actually, we'll go back to V'yedu Kiyata.
V'yedu Kiyata El Yonalta La'aretz V'yedu Kiyata Hashem El Yonalta Hashem levadecha el yain al haaretz v'yedu kiyata Hashem levadecha v'yedu kiyata Hashem levadecha el yain al haaretz Hello, Sammy. Hello, Benji. Whoever is watching, you know already the how it works. You got to get yourself a l'chaim, whether it has alcohol content or not, but some drink. Get yourself a l'chaim. Settle down. Let's say l'chaim, and let's fly away to some other better reality. Not because of the inebriation, but because of the Farbrengen. So get yourself a l'chaim. Yisroel, you have a l'chaim?
I do. Yes.
Okay. L'chaim v'levadocha. To life, to blessing, to all kinds of good news. L'chaim. So this Farbrengen is Baruch Hashem very close to the Rebbe's birthday. The Rebbe is turning 118 years old, and so we're going to be starting chapter 119. Malka, do you think you can get me a plug for this? Because this is dying. Huh? No, this is live on Facebook. The Rebbe's birthday is coming up on Sunday. The Rebbe will be turning 118 years old. 100 and chai. So here's the thing about the Rebbe, going back all the way to the Baal Shem Tov and to Moshe Rabbeinu, that the Rebbe is first and foremost the comforter in chief of the Jewish people. The Rebbe's first and foremost role was to shepherd the Jewish people through difficult times. By definition, the leader of the Jewish people in times of Golus one of the main roles is to help them get through the Golus. The Golus is not a pleasant thing. And all of the things that happen in the Golus are not a pleasant thing. So if you can figure out how to plug it into that thing.
That's fine.
Go ahead.
You all fixed up over there?
Yeah. Thank you. Close the door, please. So therefore, it's the instinct and the knee-jerk reaction that anytime we're going through a situation that causes grief or that causes the opposite of happiness, our default setting is to talk about the Rebbe, because the Rebbe picked us up through all kinds of problems. The Rebbe spent his whole life picking people up through all kinds of problems. In fact, the Rebbe identified himself as a person whose job it is to pick things up, right? Ufheben. There was a story about a man who wanted to give the Rebbe a note. The Rebbe was in his room, or the man put the note in the door of the Rebbe's room. Anyway, long story short, the Rebbe ended up finding it on the floor, and the Rebbe picked it up. So the man who gave the Rebbe the note, who had not intended that it should fall on the floor, it's a complicated story, but the point is that he wrote the Rebbe an apology letter. And he says, "Dear, I really apologize. I didn't mean to make you bend down. I know you have enough problems as it is, and I have to bend down to pick up my stuff." And the Rebbe answered him, "But this is my whole kavana. This is my whole purpose in life, is to pick things up, is to ufheben, to uplift things, especially things that other people didn't notice or that other people overlooked." So there's no question that the Rebbe is like Moshe Rabbeinu, that he is the representative of all holiness and goodness and happiness. And connecting to the Rebbe is a connection to happiness and a connection to consolation and comfort. So the Farbrengen is about the Rebbe. It's about the Rebbe's birthday. It's about the Rebbe's teachings about Pesach. The Rebbe's teachings about getting through tough times. The Rebbe's comforting people after they've gone through impossibly difficult times. And in general, the Rebbe who embodied optimism, happiness, hope, simcha, and uplifting people, uplifting their lives. So L'chaim Yisroel, tell me something about the Rebbe.
And now know at least what we're going to Farbrengen about. No shame. That's how you have a good friend, just to figure it out on the spot, you know?
Yeah. What did you want to have a title, like a
Nope.
Rabbi Yisroel Wilhelm will be addressing the subject of where is God when it hurts?
Waiting to hear where we're going with this. Good start.
Rabbi Wilhelm, where is God when it hurts? Is that a better title?
No, let's not go there. That's for the big rabbis with the white beards.
With the totally white beards.
Not
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
No.
Okay. I'd like to follow this on Facebook on my phone, just in order to keep track of who's watching, so that we can people should say L'chaim, and people should participate, and should not be watching from the side. So if you're participating, if you're here, say L'chaim, and let's sing another song. We'll warm up, and then we'll get going. So they made a song for the Rebbe's birthday when the Rebbe turned 89. And it turned out to be a song for the ages. A beautiful song written by Rabbi Fait Levin. And the Rebbe loved it. And when the Rebbe loved these songs, they became international hits. So let's sing it. Everybody, if you're watching, sing along. I know that over the internet, the songs sound a little bit noisy, but don't worry about it. Don't let it bother you. Just sing along. L'chaim Aaron. Shuva, Hashem Manos, V'hinachem alavadecha, Saveinu, V'kefazes, Omranina, V'nisra, V'chol Yomeinu. Shuva, Hashem Manos, V'hinachem alavadecha, Saveinu, V'kefazes, Unranino, Benismecha, ונרננה ונשמחה ונשמחה בנו ירואל עבדך פועלך ועדך מינו ים השם אלוקינו עלינו ירואל עבדך פועלך הדרך על בניהם מינו ים השם אלוקינו עלינו ומעשה ידינו מעשה ידינו ומעשה ידינו ומעשה ידינו L'chaim, everybody. L'chaim, Andrew Martin. L'chaim, all the love back to you. Andy, if you have a cup of water or wine or whatever you got, pick it up. L'chaim, Michal Bloom. L'chaim, l'chaim. Yisroel Zogabes.
You know, when we were Bachrim, there was a rabbi we used to like to hear into Farbrengen. And, we really enjoyed hearing him a lot. His name was Rabbi Yitzchak Meir Kagan. Remember him? Is that a yes?
Very much so.
Anyway, he later turned out to be my father-in-law. Unfortunately, I only knew him as a bacher, but not as a father-in-law. He passed away. But something that I did hear the few times I heard him speaking at Farbrengen, and this is a very common theme, including the last Shabbos before he passed away by the oil, by the Rabbi's oil when he Farbrengen. And that, I guess, he was by a Farbrengen in 1984. And it was Simchas Torah. And Simchas Torah was on a Friday. So it was Wednesday night was Shmini Atzeres, Thursday night was Simchas Torah, Friday night was Shabbos, Shabbat. And so the Rebbe would Farbrengen on Simchas Torah by day, which is a few hours before Shabbat. And the Rebbe said the following, that we are having a Farbrengen today. We're going to be finished pretty late, not long before Shabbos. And before every Shabbos, you have to do Shnayim Mikra ve'echad Targum. You want to translate that for everybody?
You have to recite the whole Torah portion and its translation.
Right, before every Friday. And you have to also say, learn with Rashi the entire Bereshis until the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because we finished reading the Torah on Friday, and then Shabbat we go straight to Shabbos Bereshis, the beginning. So Chabad custom is to learn every day the portion of the Chumash together with Rashi, and we have to study 3 chapters of Rambam, and basically it's going to be just a few hours, and you have a lot of stuff to do, about 20 hours of studying to do. So the Rabbi said, no, how is it possible? Really, how is it possible to accomplish so much? And the Rabbi said, as we demand from a Jew, we can demand nimna hanimnois. What's the right word for nimna hanimnois, Eli? The impossible.
Achieve the impossible.
No. Basically, is that what it is? Right? So it's impossible to be able to do it, yet you will have to do it. I still can't figure out what that actually means, but that's what's expected. So I feel like we're in a situation, we spoke about comfort and being in a place where the Rebbe's teachings and Torah and life can inspire us to get through this besimcha with a lot of joy. And yet, on the one hand, it's impossible to be besimcha. It's really impossible. If you follow the news, what's going on. On the other hand, you have to be besimcha. we have to, live with life with the joy. So how do they work? I don't know. But from a Jew, we demand nimna hanimnois. Right? I say this because my father-in-law, I believed, tried to live that life. And that's why maybe he enjoyed sharing that so often. I heard it from him many times. So anyway, nimna hanimnois, Ali. Let's achieve the impossible here tonight and somehow live two opposite lives in once. On the one hand, realize what's going on. On the other hand, overcome all our emotions to only use the emotion of simcha and happiness and joy and l'chaim. And hopefully we will accomplish that a little bit in the next hour or so. So l'chaim Ali. Just got my l'chaim a little bit further away, but I go get it.
Go get it. It's worth the trip.
Oh, okay. Chaim, Ali, Chaim.
Rabbi Shapiro also used to quote that Farbrengen from Friday afternoon, Simchas Torah, all the time. And of course, the Rebbe wasn't into making jokes. So when the Rebbe said that what's expected of a Jew is the impossible, he meant it. I guess he meant that, listen, our whole existence is impossible. The fact that we exist, the fact that Israel exists, the fact that we are a people today is impossible. So if your whole existence is a scientific miracle, then it shouldn't be surprising that you are expected to accomplish miracles. And there is no greater miracle than a man-made miracle. The fact that Hashem can do miracles and split seas is almost an insult to say that makes him great. Because his greatness is much, much bigger than being able to split a sea. But the fact that a human being is able to overcome his inclination and rise above it, that's a real miracle. No?
Way bigger than you can imagine, That's the Sichel Parshas Tzav over here. We just, the father spoke about the other night.
That what?
That the miracle of Mak Mitzrayim is it's a miracle that that naturally the way Hashem created the world is that darkness can't overcome darkness. It just doesn't work that way. So when they start fighting with each other to make light, to make the world a better place, that's beyond. That's not the nature. It's an unexpected. It's not the way God creates. It's not a godly miracle. It's not a miracle that God created, so it's great. God did a lot of miracles. Split the Red Sea, all that business. But the fact that when the Jews were still in Mitzrayim, still in Egypt, the firstborns went. There was a civil war between the Egyptians. They were trying between each other to allow the Jews to get free. That goes against the nature of the world, which is the ultimate miracle, which is why this Shabbos is called Shabbos Hagodah, the great Shabbos, because it doesn't make sense. Such a miracle is beyond God. That's the way
it's a miracle of miracles.
Yeah.
Also on Hanukkah, everybody asks the same question: if we had enough oil to last for one night, so why do we say that it was an 8-day miracle? If there was enough oil to last for one night and it lasted 8 nights, so then it should be a 7-day miracle, because one night was not a miracle. There was enough oil for that night. So there's apparently hundreds of answers to this question, but one of the answers to the question, the chayda, is that the oil that they had that was enough to last for one night, they had to look for that oil. The Maccabees looked for that oil, and that itself is already a moifis. Because when you come to the Beis HaMikdash and you see that the Greeks defiled the whole thing and they vandalized the whole Beis HaMikdash and everything is destroyed, and after all of the terrible things that they went through, the fact that they would believe that Ergetz Vu, somewhere there is a flask of pure oil, and that they would look for it, and that they would look for it hard, and not just say, you know what, forget about it, let's just light with the impure oil. The fact that they would have hope that there would be oil available is a human miracle. It's the miracle of the victory of the soul over the depressed inclination, the depressed tendencies of the body to give up and to give up hope and to go despair and to say, forget about it. So the first night, you're celebrating the fact that that the Jewish people, or that the Maccabees, did not lose their hope despite all of the terrible things that happened to them before them. And although they were victorious, the story of Hanukkah was not a happy story from every angle. It was bloody battles, and it wasn't so beautiful. So they came back traumatized. And yet, with all of their trauma and all of their losses and all of their grief, they still had hope that behold, the good things are going to happen. We're going to find pure oil. There still is purity in the world. And that itself is worth celebrating for a whole night.
Yeah.
So the fact that we're getting through this, the fact that our parents, Baruch Hashem, are getting through this with their sanity intact, the fact that people are calling upon resources of endurance and strength and hope and faith that we never knew existed before, that itself is enough of a reason for a miracle, for a celebration, for a Farbrengen. And we should really take inspiration from the people that we're seeing, from the people around us that we're seeing that are suffering, and that yet their spirit is very strong. So l'chaim. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching, say l'chaim. If you can, write l'chaim in the comments so that we'll know that you're with us. And with more people, it makes it a more warm Farbrengen. So l'chaim, everybody. May everybody be happy and healthy and successful, and keep up the hope and the faith. Es wird sein gut.
Amen.
It's going to be good. L'chaim. You know, I don't know if we sang this. If we sang this last week, or the last time we had a Farbrengen, we sang the Rebbe Geheißen Freilach Sein.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so there's a song in Chabad, the Rebbe hat Geheißen Freilach Sein. Freilach muss man sein. The Rebbe said everybody must be happy. Everybody's got to be happy. Well, if the Rebbe said that everybody's got to be happy, Freilach muss man sein, then you got to be happy, which is so funny. It's so funny because when you're happy, if you win the lottery, you're happy. If your favorite sports team wins, then you're happy. You get a good deal in business. You get a nice donation. You're happy. Everybody's good. You're happy. If things are going well, then you're happy. But not the Rebbe geheißen freilach sein. The Rebbe said everyone's got to be happy, so we got to be happy. If you have reason to be happy, then what do you need the Rebbe to tell you to be happy? And if you have no reason to be happy, what does it help that the Rebbe tells you to be happy? Then we're asking too many questions. The Rebbe geheißen freilach sein. The Rebbe says it's a mitzvah to be happy, and if the Rebbe says that we should be happy, then we trust that there is good reason to be b'simcha. So first, let's say l'chaim to Levi Vlaslavsky, our old, good, wonderful, dear, darling friend, l'chaim Levi, and to Rabbi Hershey Spritzer, l'chaim Levracha, and to Hadassah, and to John, l'chaim, everybody. Let's sing this happy song, everybody in your homes. Let's raise the spirits of all the people around us. L'chaim. Der Rebbe geheißen freilach sein, freilach sein, freilach darf man sein. Der Rebbe hat geheißen freilach sein, freilach darf man sein. Der Rebbe hat geheißen freilach sein, freilach sein, freilach. Der Rebbe hat geheißen freilach sein, freilach darf man sein. Der Rebbe hat geheißen freilach sein, freilach sein, freilach darf man sein. Der Rebbe hat geheißen freilach sein, freilach muss man sein. Der Rebbe hat geheißen freilach sein, freilach sein. Der Rebbe hat geheißen freilach sein, freilach soll man sein. Der Rebbe hat geheißen freilach sein, freilach sein, freilach darf man sein. Der Rebbe hat geheißen freilach sein, freilach darf man sein. Der Rebbe hat geheißen freilach sein, freilach sein, freilach sein. Der Rebbe hat geheißen freilach sein, freilach darf man sein. Der Rebbe hat geheißen freilach sein, freilach sein, freilach. Der Rebbe hat geheißen freilach sein, freilach darf man sein. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim Benny, l'chaim Motel. All questions are allowed. Answers are not guaranteed. B'chlal, in Judaism, questions are better than answers. Questions keep you up at night, and answers put you to sleep, right? L'chaim.
Time, Ellie.
All right, Yisroel, I want to share a story that we heard, that the two of us heard from Rabbi Feller. Rabbi Moshe Feller, soll gesund sein, one of the Rebbe's greatest Chassidim.
We'll get him to Farbrengen with us next time.
What?
We'll get him to Farbrengen with us next time.
On Facebook.
Oh, yeah. Figure it out somehow.
Rabbi Feller is the shliach in Minnesota. And in 1972, when the Rebbe turned 70 years old, he decided to make a very, very large celebration in Minnesota, even though the Rebbe's birthday is 3 days before Pesach, on the 11th of Nisan. But he decided, you know what, we're going to do it anyways. He brought out a very, very famous Jewish author from New York to be a guest speaker, to draw a large crowd. And he had a great event in Minnesota. And the only way he was able to get this famous speaker to come from New York was to get somebody's private jet to fly him out to Minnesota and then fly him back to New York immediately following the lecture. So as it turned out, when the lecture was over, Rabbi Feller drove him back to the airport. And then Rabbi Feller realized, hey, why should I get back in the car and go home? Here I have a free flight to New York. I can go to New York and I'll be in New York for the Rebbe's birthday. So Rabbi Feller jumps into this private jet together with the speaker. So they get on the airplane. Rabbi Feller, when he was Farbrengen, he says to us, have you ever been in a Lear jet? If you've never been in a Lear jet, you don't know what luxury is. Anyway,
1972, whatever.
Yeah, they get into this 1972 model Lear jet, and they fly to New York. Anyway, on the airplane, they're sitting there. They're confined to the airplane for 2.5 hour flight from Minnesota to New York. And Rabbi Feller is thinking to himself, this is beautiful. This is wonderful. This is beautiful. This is what an amazing thing to get a free trip to New York. But then the next thought was, how should I spend these few hours with my fellow Jew here, with this speaker? How am I going to spend it on these few hours on the plane? And he decided that by heart, from memory, he's going to share with this author the Rebbe's commentary on the Haggadah, on the Passover Haggadah. So he spent the better part of 2.5 hours, teaching the Haggadah to this man. Anyway, they come to the airport at JFK. The man goes his way. Rabbi Feller goes to New York, to Brooklyn, to Crown Heights, to 770. He comes in. The Rebbe is in the middle of receiving people in private meetings. The Chassidim are Farbrengen. Everybody's in a great mood. What an amazing thing. Rabbi Feller lands here unexpected. And he davens Ma'ariv, and he goes and he sits down with the Chassidim to Farbrengen. A few minutes later, he writes a full report of the evening, that what happened in Minnesota, gives it to the Rebbe's secretary, and then he goes to the Chassidim and he sits down to Farbrengen. A few minutes later, the Rebbe's secretary comes out and says, the Rebbe would like to see you. So Rabbi Feller went into a panic. He didn't make any preparation. He's not ready to see the Rebbe. The secretary says, come on, the Rebbe's waiting for you. Let's go. So Rabbi Feller has no choice. He goes to the Rebbe's office. He comes in. The Rebbe is holding his report. And the Rebbe says to him, "Was hat sich geredet auf dem plane?" Which means, what was discussed on the airplane? How did you spend the time on the airplane? And Rabbi Feller tells us, you can imagine how relieved I was that I spent those 2.5 hours teaching the Passover Haggadah and the Rebbe's teachings about the Haggadah to this man.
Not speaking about the Minnesota Twins, you see.
So I'm thinking about this story now as we're getting close to Pesach. And eventually, sooner than later, this whole ridiculous crisis is going to come to an end. And so to speak, we're going to land. And our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren and our Rebbe and our God is going to ask us, what's the geredet auf dem plane? What did you spend your time doing while you were in confinement? How did you spend your time when you were together with everybody, when you couldn't leave? What did you do during that time? And I bless myself and I bless you that we should be able to have a good answer. That we Farbrengen, that we spent a lot of time talking to our fellow Jews, that we spent a lot of time learning, spent a lot of time davening, and that we didn't waste too much time, because these are godly times. Godly times, not always pleasant. but very special. So we should capitalize on this special time and make sure that when it's over, people want to know, what did you do? What's a Greta from playing? We should be as proud as Rabbi Feller was to say, oh, you want to know what we did when we were in quarantine? We were saying L'chaim. That's what we were doing. We were saying L'chaim. I think that's going to be a good answer. L'chaim, L'chaim.
Chaim Ali.
So how are you doing with your students over there in Boulder? What are you telling people? What are people telling you?
The number one question I'm getting from people is, can I celebrate Pesach by myself? By myself. My parents aren't here. My family's not here. Blah, blah, blah. There's nobody. Well, is it even a thing to celebrate Pesach by yourself? Isn't even... At least, I have my wife and kids, which is also trying to figure out how that works. But nobody else. But for some people, it's simply alone, by themselves. And this is the first and maybe only time experience in their lives. And so, what do you say?
So what are you telling them? What do you tell people who are asking that question?
I don't have a good answer. Obviously you have to celebrate Pesach, and you have to break the news to people that Pesach is not about party and other people, and has a lot more to that. But ultimately, how do you get connected in such a time? So, I'll tell you the spiritual answer, and then the practical answer I'll leave to you. Spiritual answer is back to that sikha that your father was teaching the other night, talk of the Rabbi. The Rabbi said about why do you not have to blow? The Rabbi said why the Gemara says, the Talmud says, you do not have to blow shofar on Shabbat of Rosh Hashanah. So even though you do have to blow, the Torah says you do have to blow. There was a rabbinical decree 2,000 years ago that somebody who might not know the right law, like one Jew out of 1,000 or 2,000 might not know what's going on, and that Jew will end up desecrating Shabbat because he might not know how to blow the shofar. So therefore, all right, let's cancel it. So obviously, what does that mean? So the Rabbi explains that a very famous idea in Hasidus that we don't need shofar on Rosh Hashanah. We don't need it. It's on Shabbos. Sorry. Shabbos itself gives a spiritual
when Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos.
Yeah, when Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbat, you do not need to hear the shofar because Shabbat itself gives a spiritual energy that is just as good as hearing the shofar, if not better. So I say to myself, we can't be with the minyan, we can't hear the Torah being read, we can't be with friends, we can't be with family, we can't do all these things that you would think it's like not hearing the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. We're sitting here and it's like a decree that nobody can, we can't do things that we used to do to connect with Hashem. We're used to hearing the shofar, we're used to, connecting in very traditional ways. And suddenly God is telling us, nope, go find another way. The day itself is holy. The time itself is holy. And so I guess this is I don't know if it's true, but conceptually, this is what I'm thinking to myself, that, this time itself, whatever it means, is holy enough to replace all the traditional ways that we are used to of connecting to God. And we have to tap into that because that's the only reason. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. Otherwise, how can you pretty much break, go against something that thousands of years? How could it be that there isn't one synagogue open in the entire world for the first time in history? Since since synagogues have been around. So clearly there's something spiritual going on over here. And we have some kind. So we can say, it's a negative thing, a bad thing, but we can go the whole negativity, or we can say that no, because there's a time now that we do not need a synagogue, we do not need a minyan, we do not need other family members to be with to celebrate Pesach. We can even celebrate Pesach by ourselves. There's a God is in a, maybe I'm wrong, Eddie. What do you think? Am I on something over here?
Well, first of all, you quoted my father, so therefore I can't say you're wrong. That was a very good defense. It's
L'chaim.
very smart. L'chaim, l'chaim. Um, but yeah, definitely you are correct that if Hashem takes away from us the ability to celebrate a Seder in the most ideal way, then he has to compensate somehow. He can't just take things away. He's got to compensate. Like the Rebbe told the disabled veterans of the IDF. If Hashem deprives you of a particular tool that most people have, then it means that he compensates with some power, with some energy that most people don't have. That's just the fact of life. So therefore, if you have been deprived of a certain tool, then you have been compensated, and therefore you are extraordinary in your character. You are special. You're elite. So all the Jews in the world today who are expected to celebrate a Seder by themselves have been compensated by God with more power in their souls to celebrate a Seder exactly with the same energy and with the same joy that they celebrate with their families, but by themselves. We have the power to do it. It may not be exciting. The prospect may not be exciting, but Yiddishkeit has never been about doing what's exciting. It's always been about doing what needs to get done. And right now, apparently, what needs to get done is more seders than maybe ever before. If it could be, it could be that this year there will be more seders than ever happened before since the days of the Beis Hamikdash, because so
Even
many
more. The Beis Hamikdash had to get together. Kutzes, you know.
Okay, so maybe even more. Because of all the people that would have been doing the seders together, and now they're doing the seder. Every seder during the good years, and next year, God willing, and maybe even this year, if Hashem decides to make a really great miracle, every seder is made up of potentially 10 seders. 5 families together and a bunch of individuals and single people, and now all those seders have been split up into individual seders. So now 1,000 seders became 10,000 seders. 10,000 seders became 100,000 seders. So you have really countless seders happening this year, which is another kind of mitzvah.
Yeah. Your father said something very beautiful that I really connected to very strongly. He said, you know, how the Rebbe said one year, and we say before Man Nishtana, you say, Father, please answer me, Tate. Father, I want to ask you the tradition to say before Man Nishtana, even if you're far away from your father, to say, your father, please answer me these questions. So the Rebbe once said, I think it wasn't before Pesach, I think it was closer to Rosh Hashanah, that when you, or maybe not, that when you say that, and you ask your father to come down, even if your father is not in this world, has passed on, the neshama of the deceased becomes present at your seder with you. So your father said that when you say this year and you're by yourself at a Pesach seder, nobody's there with you, and you say, Father, speak to God. Say, God, I want to ask you a few questions. Can you please hang out with me a little bit longer to explain me? I found that very, very beautiful. It's not about what we're used to. It's about what the truth is in this situation. And the truth is that Hashem is with us here, there, everywhere. And we just have to tap into a new energy that maybe we will for sure never tapped into before. And like you said before, what are we talking about? So you can say the Seder was horrible, the worst of my life. Never had such a tragic Seder, all of myself hold up. Or you can say, wow, this was the Seder. I had an opportunity to talk to Hashem directly, talk to my neshama in a way that I've never spoken to connect with the Yiddishkeit and the mitzvahs, in a focused way. So that's the l'chaim to those people who around the world, those who are listening, those who will listen, those who are not listening, those who we have to impact, to my students, that do not waste this opportunity. Do not waste an opportunity to have a seder, the most meaningful seder of your life. L'chaim.
L'chaim. I think it was either Falakan or Laser Nanas who said that they were in the Siberian labor camps, They were sent to the gulags because of the fact that they were teaching in the underground cheters. They were teaching children when the communists had said that you're not allowed to. Anyway, so one of them, I don't remember which one it was, but one of them said that he was keeping track of the calendar, which is a miracle in and of itself. See, today we're not going to work and we don't have people coming over, and we're already losing track of the calendar. These people were keeping track of the calendar.
What day is it today?
Yeah. My uncle Alti Bucket said he's making Kiddush every night just in case it's Friday night. But if you know Alti, you know that's only one of the reasons he's making Kiddush every night. Anyway, so one of them, it was either Laser Nanis or Fala Khan, said that he was keeping track of the calendar, and he knew that it's Simchas Torah, and he was by himself, not like other cases where people were in the gulags together with some other Jews, with some other Chassidim. He was by himself. He was a man. Talk about isolation. He was a man by himself. And it's Simchas Torah. And you're talking about a guy who's 21, 22, 23 years old, spent all of his life for 20 years. Simchas Torah meant being with friends and family and dancing and saying l'chaim and holding the Torahs and enjoying everybody's company and celebrating Yiddishkeit, and that's what Simchas Torah meant. And suddenly here he is, it's Simchas Torah and garnished. He doesn't have a shul, he doesn't have a Torah, and he doesn't have a friend, he doesn't have a family, and he doesn't have anything. So what he was able to get, the only thing that he was able to get, was he got himself a cup of schnapps. So he says, I have a cup of schnapps, and who am I going to say l'chaim with? I'm going to say l'chaim to people that don't understand what Simchas Torah is. Anyway, so he says he went outside, he found himself a quiet spot. He looked up to the sky and he says, okay, Hashem, it's just you and me. It's just you and me. I have nobody else to say l'chaim with. I've never said l'chaim to you before. But here goes. L'chaim Hashem. He says it was really, it's an amazing thing, I'll tell you. When we had, a few years ago, we had our daughter, a baby girl, and we spent Shabbos in the hospital. Right? Baruch Hashem, for a good reason. And Mitzvah Hashem, soon will come to a time when the only time people will go to hospitals is for babies, or maybe not even that.
Amen.
But anyway, we were in the hospital. We were in hospital over Shabbos. And after Shabbos, it occurred to me how easy it is to forget that it's Shabbos if you are not in an environment of Shabbos. You're sitting in a hospital. You don't have a table with a white tablecloth. You don't have your family. You don't have the challah hot out of the oven. You don't have the chicken soup. You don't have the Shabbos candles. You're using the light in the room. You're not allowed to light the candle in the hospital. You have none of the trappings of Shabbos. You don't have the menicha v'simcha, and you don't have ma'yedidus menuchusayich. You don't have all of the physical trappings of a Shabbos. It's not Shabbos. You have no kugel, and you have no fligel, and you have no gefilte fish. I mean, you have everything out of a
jarred gefilte fish.
Yeah. And because of that, there are a few times when you have to remind yourself that it's Shabbos. And I'll tell you, it's a very humbling experience. What is Shabbos to you? A white tablecloth and Shabbos candles and the smell of chicken soup. That's Shabbos. And then you think about these guys, about Folikan, who was exiled to the farthest corner of the farthest hole in the wall, north, near the North Pole. And he was the only Jew for 50,000 miles. And they dump him over there, the communists, the Soviets, they dump him over there and they tell him, have a good day and check into the KGB office once a week. They don't even give him a place to live. So he finds himself a rental. He found himself a rental in the home of one of the local primitive people. The guy gave him a corner of his hut and cordoned it off with a curtain. And that was his apartment. The corner of somebody's hut cordoned off with a curtain. So comes Friday, and the guy is lighting a lantern for the night. You have to light a lantern. There's no electricity. There's no electricity up there. This is not talking about the 1600s. We're talking about the 1940s, 1930s, 50s. Anyway, so the guy is lighting a lantern. And he lights a lantern. He says he lights one for Folikan. So Folikan says, can you give me the one that you lit for yourself? Because he remembered that you're not allowed to ask a non-Jew to do work for you on Shabbos that you're not allowed to do. So the guy lit this one for him. He can't take it. So he says to the guy, can I have the one that you lit for yourself? Because that's okay. So the guy goes, sure. He gives him the one that he lights for himself. Next Shabbos comes along. The guy offers him a lantern, and Folikan says, can I have the one that you lit for yourself? The guy goes, no. This is the one that you like. This is the one that you have last week. So this is the one. I lit it special for you. He says, I know, but this week I want the other one. I'm like, how does the man even remember that it's Shabbos on the world? What? He doesn't smell gefilte fish. He doesn't smell the chicken. He doesn't have a table. He doesn't have a family. What's Shabbos about the day? And yet he's risking darkness and cold because it's Shabbos. This year, it's especially for people who are going to do the Pesach Seder themselves. It's going to be very hard to remember that it's Pesach in the world. You don't have your family and your Bubby and Zaidi and your parents and your children and the family, Afikomen, the kids running around. You don't have
a wife or husband sometimes.
Right. Yeah. It's going to be very hard to remember or to feel like it's really Pesach. But then you gotta think about all of the people that came before us who tread the path, who showed that it's Shabbos because it's Shabbos. And it's Pesach when the sun goes down on the Seder night. It's Pesach whether you have the trappings around you or you don't. It's Pesach. So you might as well celebrate it. You might as well celebrate it like never before because it's Pesach.
If you have to make a l'chaim to everybody who's here watching our communities, our people, and beyond, to make sure that this year really every single Jew celebrates Pesach anyway. They're stuck at home. There's no excuses whatsoever. Let's get them some matzah, some gefilte fish, whatever it takes, and let them celebrate Pesach. There'll never, ever be an opportunity like this year for every Jew in the world to celebrate Pesach. This is it. The moment, the time is now. So that's a responsibility that goes beyond rabbis, and everybody has to make sure that everybody gets to celebrate Pesach. That's the truth. So l'chaim to that.
L'chaim, everybody. L'chaim, 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 l'chaim shol. Happy holidays. L'chaim. L'chaim shol. L'chaim shol Brook from Bozeman, Montana.
My dear cousin. L'chaim.
Saba Habib, we are Jewish people. To answer your question. That was a simple question. L'chaim, l'chaim. Kodesh Baruch Hu Matzilenu Kodesh Baruch Hu Matzilenu Miyadam Ayela Shebecha Dimaleinu Lechalefeinu Ayela Shechal Darvadasim Aleinu Lechalefeinu Ayim Dimaleinu Ayim Dimaleinu Lechalefeinu V'ha'kodesh baruch Matzilenu V'ha'kodesh baruch Matzilenu miyadam Matilenu miyadam Matilenu miyadam L'chaim l'chaim l'chaim.
Hi, Ali. You're talking about, yeah, you go.
Oh, go ahead. I was just saying l'chaim to l'chaim mechol.
Okay, whoever else have to say l'chaim to, I'll wait. Have a list over there.
No, go ahead.
No, you reminded me when you spoke about Farbrengen, who I actually got to meet when I was a young boy. But I asked since yeshiva's a long time ago, so I remember the same 30 stories, and I repeat to you maybe for 35. So whenever Shabbos is over and my boys from yeshiva say that if Farbrengen that Shabbos, I always ask them to share one story that they heard that day in a Farbrengen. So one time, recently, it had to be very recently because I wouldn't remember if it wasn't very recently. My son shared with me that his I don't know what the rabbi's point was. It was Mashpia's point was, but the story I remember is that there was a chassid of the fifth Chabad Rebbe, the Rebbe Rashab, who came into the Chabad yeshiva that the fifth Rebbe established for the holiest and the best. So he comes in with a good piece of meat. I think it was duck. And the yeshiva boys, they went nuts. They couldn't. They were so excited to have a little bit of it. So the man was so unimpressed. He said, "Oh, these are boys, spiritual, young boys who have spiritual, idealists. They trying to become insensitive to materialism. Yet when I bring them a good piece of meat, they're fighting over it." So the Rebbe, the fifth Chabad Rebbe, the Rebbe Rashab said, "What do you want from them? You're used to this. This means nothing to you. You have this every day. For them, they don't even eat meat. They don't have a piece of chicken. It's so poor over here. Of course, calm down. Of course, not a big deal. They're gonna get excited." I've been thinking, like, for us, this whole quarantine business is so new that we just have no idea what to do with this chicken, with this dog. We just have no idea what to do with it. Like, what are we going to do with it? People like Farbrengen, these spiritual beings, Chassidim of old, the Chassidim of new, and many of the Chassidim, unfortunately, passed away this week, These people, Ruchniya spirituality, change of place, of pace, whatever it may be, is nothing new to them. They're just truck, the same people, same thing, same vision, whatever they are. For us, we get so with this piece of chicken is throwing us so off. We have no idea what to do with it. Yet, we somehow have to figure out very quickly how to make. Now, really, just get used to it. It's really we can't change who we are. Those people have to be by the Seder by themselves. Don't let it take you down. This is the same Seder you have every year, the same opportunity you have every year. It's just a little bit different. It's a different kind of chicken, a different piece of meat. Don't let it affect you in any kind of way. Don't think about it too much. Every story you said before, the beauty of every story you said before it was spontaneous. It was Friday night. It was suddenly and it happened. Just don't think about it. Hesed Chadas, right? You talk to me Hesed Chadas. You can tell your people what Hesed Chadas means. Just stop thinking about it. It will come. Don't get depressed about it before. Seder will come. You'll make it the best. It'll be spontaneous, and you remember it forever. L'chaim, Eli, let's do that ourselves. Let's be spontaneous. That's the best moments in life, are the spontaneous moments. L'chaim.
What's the update with you getting a haircut on Facebook? Speaking of
That's tomorrow. Because I don't have any.
Oh yeah, is it happening?
Unless you want to drive, I have nobody. Unless one of my students watching want to come over and give me a haircut. As of right now, my 14-year-old Usher is going to be Facebook living my haircut tomorrow.
Are you making a fundraiser out of it?
Of course.
Oh, good. It's very good.
For every piece of hair he gets wrong, It's good to be, but it's okay. I'm not going to see anybody afterwards anyway. As long as the front looks good, all good.
Make sure you take a before. Make sure you take a before and after picture.
I will indeed. I will indeed.
You know, there's a woman who's watching. Her name is Hadassah. I don't know her, but she says that there was a story going around about the Rebbe making a seder by himself.
Yeah.
And I did see the story, and of course, it makes sense. Obviously, after the Rebbe passed away, we know that the Rebbe did the seder by himself. He didn't do it with anybody else. But I'm wondering whether you heard from your brother Shaul or whether you heard from somebody else any kind of a first-person report of someone who was there or who was around that when that year or those years when the Rebbe did the seder by himself.
The only thing I heard is from my uncle Chaim Shaul and Gesund. He had a refuah shalema. I remember by him, he used to be one of the Bakrim who hung out. You know, they had the yeshiva boys hanging out. The Rebbe was by himself, you know, all Friday night in case he needed anything. But I don't remember the specifics of, what it was. I don't remember. I mean, what your father said the other night, I can only quote your father said the other night. He said, "I'm not alone. I'm going to be with Yisroel."
Well, the Rebbe said that?
The Rebbe said, yeah. So, as your father said, which goes right back to our theme that we're never alone. Nope, that's it.
You know, I was going to say this before, but I thought that it's too much of a callous kind of an insensitive statement. But now that you mentioned that, I'm going to say whatever. What? How can it hurt? Let me just say what I'm saying.
Facebook Live, you say.
Let me just tell you what I'm thinking. After the Rebbe passed away in 1994, one of the teachings of Hasidus that we all became very familiar with, not because we wanted to, but because of the situation, was what the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, that when a tzaddik passes away, he actually is found on earth more than when he was alive. And the Alter Rebbe gives explanations about why that is, but essentially the explanation is that while the tzaddik is alive, in a body, the body restricts the neshama. Even a neshama of a tzaddik is restricted by the body of the tzaddik. And so therefore, the tzaddik essentially can only be in one place. But when the tzaddik passes away, in other words, sheds the body, now there is much less limitation. And the tzaddik is actually found in all of the world more than he was before. And but to some degree, you have to be able to say this about every one of us because we all have neshamas. We all have a godly soul. So you have to be able to say this about every one of us, that there is a certain aspect how God forbid a person lost a parent or a grandparent or great-grandparent, not just during this terrible plague, but at any time in the past. If a person lost a parent or a grandparent, that person, because of this, what Alter Rebbe said about the neshama and the body, that person is found on earth now more than they were before. You know, I don't know if you remember Country Yossi. You listen to Country Yossi when you were a kid at all?
I did, but I never got into it, you know. I know your family was into this stuff.
Yeah, my family was very into it. Country Yossi had made parodies out of non-Jewish songs, and he had one song was called the Deaf Man in the Shtiebel. Basically, the point is that there was a chazan, the man who was the chazan in the shul, and his father was deaf, and his father used to come every year to hear him sing Kol Nidre. And then one year the chazan was late to Kol Nidre, and people were wondering where is he? He came late. He walked in and came late. And then he belted out a Kol Nidre like he never did before. And they asked him what happened. He said, "Last night my father passed away. So this is the first time that my father's hearing me sing Kol Nidre." And it's a knockoff. It's a knockoff from a non-Jewish song. But the point of it is very, very true. That here you have a person whose body was deaf and therefore limited. But then when the body passes away and the person lives on, obviously, so now he's hearing the Kol Nidre for the first time. So every year, We say, what's different this Pesach from was is anders die Pesach von alle Pesachs von our ganz Leben? Why is this Pesach different from all the Pesachs of all of our whole life? The answer is all the Pesachs of our whole life, our parents and our grandparents who have passed away come to celebrate the Seder with us. And yet we can't sense their presence because we're surrounded by so many people and we're surrounded by so many kids running around Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. This year, when we're isolated and we don't have the whole commotion, especially people who are by themselves, as so to speak, for the Seder, and you don't have the whole commotion of the people around you, that this is the year that you might sense for the first time, much more than before, the presence of all of the people that come to join your Seder from Gan Eden, whose presence you have never felt before at the Seder because of the presence of all the other physical people. And when you say that the Rebbe says he's going to spend the Seder with a Shver, I don't know, nobody's going to compare themselves to the Rebbe, but to some degree, everybody has the ability to sense the truth of the fact that you're going to spend the Seder this year not alone. You're going to be spending the Seder with all of the people that join your Seder from Gan Eden. Your grandparents, everybody remembers their grandparents, great-grandparents, and they're coming to spend the Seder with you. And if you're by yourself, then you can be sure that they'll come to spend the Seder with you. Anyway, Baruch Hashem, both of my parents are alive, but I think that the point of it is true. So it's not just that this year we can have a Seder just like any other year. No, this year we can have an extraordinary Seder. We can have an extraordinary Seder to feel the presence of our ancestors, to feel the presence of Eliyahu Hanavi, to feel the presence of Rebbe who comes to spend the Seder with us, to feel the presence of, like you said, Hashem who is at the Seder with every one of us, to feel these spiritual presences, because now for the first time we'll have an absence of physical presence.
Oh, l'chaim to that. L'chaim, Meli.
L'chaim, everybody, l'chaim. Ilu, Haitianu, min Mitzrayim, Haitianu, min Mitzrayim, Dayenu. Ilu, Haitianu, Mitzrayim, Haitianu, min Mitzrayim, Dayenu. Ay, Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Mitzrayim dayenu, ilu, tiyanu, Mitzrayim, Mitzrayim dayenu, hey, dayenu, Ilu, Haitianu, Mitzrayim, Ilu, Haitianu, Mitzrayim, Dayenu, Yisroel, you were at a bris today, yeah? You were at a bris today. You tell us about it.
Look, I think the bris is exactly what we're talking about. Is that that we had a boy. He might be watching now, Brandon. A boy. He's one of my closest, dearest friends, and Brandon. And his wife Melanie, thank gesund, had a baby, and they knew having a boy for a while, and they've been dreaming and planning and excited and everything, that parents would be. And Brandon loves his family more than any, not more, but the top, the people who are really, really into their family, that's who he is. And his family all live very, very close to him. We're not talking about all in Denver. They'll never leave each other. And yeah, you have to celebrate, not close to each other. So I encourage him to encourage all his siblings to make a l'chaim over Zoom. It was just him and his wife and the moyel. And I'm sure they thought it's going to be the absolutely worst, worst, but making the best out of the situation. And the truth is, I could not. I was standing there and watching them. And I don't think they've ever had more love from people, from God, from everything. I believe it was for me, I definitely have never been to a bris. First of all, Elio, a Navi who comes to every bris, I don't know, he's like an Uber driver trying to be in 100 places at the same time, He must have been pretty busy, If you think the Seder was bad, this was, all live at Zoom. Everybody was watching closely. But it was, it's like a moment in time, a moment in time. Something. I know this is a very, very, very different situation. But if you remember, maybe you don't. Rabbi Shapiro, who was our Rosh Yeshiva back in Rabbi Shapiro in Miami, he shared with us. You remember this story? When he came back from Russia? Nope, still not. So back in the day, they used to send people, for those who are listening and watching, they used to send people to Russia, the former USSR, to officially be tourists and check out the communities. I mean, they knew there were rabbis, but the Rebbe wanted people who are very, very smart, so they can have as much information in their minds as possible. So they were allowed to bring some religious books and whatever, matzah, whatever they were allowed to bring in. But anyway, there were certain restrictions and rules. I actually remember Minnesota one time. This is a side story. There was a guy, Rabbi Katz, I don't remember his name, from New Haven. And you remember, and you used to stay with your parents' house for Shabbos, and you made me walk to yeshiva. So I walked with him all the way to yeshiva. And he told me as a joke, I remember it was a long walk. I'm not making up how many miles. It was a mile or two. I'm going to guess 2 miles. Anyway, we walked, and there was block after block. I forgot the main road over there by your parents' house, whatever, all the way to the shul.
Fairview.
Fairview's where your parents live? No, it's like the shul. Edgecombe's where your parents live. It's Fairview, the one going up to Yeshiva. And it was block after block after block. And he said, by the way, I can name every single street we just went past. I was like, what? And he started knocking off every single name. I was like, oh, you've been here before? He goes, it's my first time here. But God bless me with photographic memory. And actually, I went to Russia a few times. I was sent by the Rebbe a few times to Russia in order to be able to memorize an unbelievable amount of things. And that's where we got into conversation. Anyway, so Rabbi Shapiro, who's also very smart, was sent by the Rebbe on this mission to go to Russia to find out whatever he found out. So when he landed, on the way back, he wrote a whole, long note, right away, all his memories. So you should put it down on paper. And he landed in New York on Friday afternoon, not long before Shabbos. So he didn't have time to make sure that the entire report was written properly. But he said to the Rebbe, I have one story for you. You don't remember this? All right. So he said one story. I'm going to call Rabbi Shapiro to confirm the story because I remember it like yesterday. So I have one story for you that I would like to share. And that is, I met a woman, and she had a baby before Rosh Hashanah. And the closest moyel, a person who can do the circumcision, was a 24-hour train ride away. So she went on the train for 24 hours, got the bris, and she came back home. Remember, she just had a baby, and she had no idea where her husband was, whatever he was, wherever he was. So she did it by herself. So Rabbi Shapiro said, you couldn't wait. I mean, you just had a baby, and you really have to go right now. And she said, oh yeah, there was no way that Yom Kippur was going to pass without my baby having a bris. That was just not going to happen. Yom Kippur, maybe I had to have a bris. So he wrote this into the Rebbe. So, like you said earlier, Rabbi Feller, he gets the secretary of the Rebbe call him like talking about it half an hour before Shabbos. And the Rebbe didn't want to speak to him, but they had a message from the Rebbe. And the Rebbe said, "Sollst du sagen, the größte Bali Mesiris Nefesh from da wegen die Frau." You should tell the people who think they have all the self-sacrifice in the world here. The people, oh my God, I've given up. You have no idea what I'm giving up to do this person a favor. You have no idea what I'm giving up and how much money I'm giving to tzedakah and whatever I'm giving up for somebody else. Tell them about this woman in Russia. Bring them back down to reality. So I was thinking, and I know it's a very different type of story, but I was thinking about the fact that whatever situation we are in, obviously this woman by herself, without her husband, on a train for 48 hours to get a bris for her son, I don't want to compare anything to that, but she was by herself and, being quarantined on a train for 48 hours with a baby who's 7 days old and then have a bris couldn't have been the most exciting thing. But you got to do what you got to do. You got to do because Yom Kippur can't come and the baby shouldn't have a bris. And the same thing, I was watching Brandon and Melanie, have a bris. And yeah, it's a little bit of a risk today to bring the moil into your house. And, and they did it. And the moil was quarantined for 2 weeks. And they were quarantined for 2 weeks. And the daughter had to be quarantined by the parents for 2 weeks, the older daughter. So it's not a simple situation. But having a bris, you have to have a bris, and that's what you have to do. And you don't wait. You don't hang around for the perfect time, for the perfect moment to make it how we plan to have it. I say there with all our family there. You just do it the way Hashem wants it to be done. So l'chaim to them for making the move. L'chaim to everybody here who's going to spontaneously continue our mission for a long, long time. L'chaim.
What did they name the baby?
Ezra Shmuel. I merited to name the baby from my home in Boulder.
You named the baby over Zoom?
Yes, beautiful.
Ezra Shmuel.
Ezra Shmuel, very, very beautiful. Ezra, they went different names, but Ezra is the first, the leader who brought the Jewish people back from Galus and reestablished Yiddishkeit, and they heard the Haftarah of Shmuel on Rosh Hashanah, and they said that's going to be, if we have a boy, that's going to be our name. That's the one, So let's go to shul, or let's not go to shul now, but let's learn a little bit. So at least we have some inspiration for the moments that are true and real. So Chaim to that. Chaim. Nu, was the gerät auf dem Plane?
It's not very often that you get an opportunity to do a mitzvah b'taharasa. It's not very often in today's world. Thank God, I'm not complaining. I am not complaining about today's world. Baruch Hashem. We're living in the 21st century in America.
Your father actually said, I got to quote your father. Can I quote your father for 1 second?
Sure, go ahead.
Listen to him. He said one line, which I repeated at least 50 times since then. He said, your father said a line that we have learning now that Hashem has given us exactly what we need. We have exactly what we need. We always have this. He didn't explain. The situation has taught us that we have exactly what we need to have. God has given us exactly what we need to have. We think that we need more. We need this. We need that. Exactly. We have our health. We have our family. We have our kids. We have our home. That's all we need. What do we need? Need more.
Yeah. A few days ago, I had a conversation with him, and I made the mistake of making a tiny, tiny, tiny little comparison between this situation and World War II. He cut me down. The Jews in World War II were not deprived. Okay, whatever. Bottom line is, he said, don't make that comparison. And what we're deprived of today is
exactly.
We can't get toilet paper. We can't get sushi. Improvise.
Yeah.
Just don't mix up your improvisations. But anyway, so what we say, so Baruch Hashem, not complaining about this world, about this life that we have. That's Baruch Hashem. Thank God. Before this virus and after this virus, we had nothing to complain about. We're living in the lap of luxury. Remember, you and me, when we were single, we both said it would be nice to end up in a place where you have a view of mountains. So Hashem said, Okay, so I'll put you on a place where you could see mountains, and we ended up seeing mountains.
We were in Arizona.
This will give you two. Anyway, so but because of that, it's very hard to experience a mitzvah in its raw form, because every time we do a mitzvah, it's accompanied by some kind of artificial setting. A bris, very often the mitzvah of doing a bris is lost in the fact that there's a kiddush and your family comes to town and your parents come to town and it's very exciting and you got to choose a name. It's like, and what about the mitzvah of bris milah? You do it. Of course you do it. You say the bracha, finished, weitergegangen. And the same thing is about tefillin. The same thing is about davening. You go to shul. It's a social scene. You see everybody, and it's wonderful. Yeah, good, and it's all good. And I'm not complaining. And like Rabbi Zalangold says, hey, the God should give everybody should enjoy their lives in luxury, and everyone should have the top of the top and the creme de la creme. But when you were going to do a bris, and you were going to have the top caterer in town cater it, and you were going to rent out the nicest hall, and you were going to have your family come to town, and you were going to have people come to town that you hadn't seen in a long time, and none of that happened, and all you're left with is the mitzvah. Yeah. And that is what's happening to a lot of people now on Pesach. The whole scene of Pesach is gone, and all you're left with is Pesach. That's all you're left with. There's no family. There's no trips on Chol HaMoed, right? No one's going on trips on Chol HaMoed. For a lot of people, there isn't some of their favorite Pesach foods. There isn't all of the fluff of Pesach.
Some people even have to give up the luxury of their hummus.
That's right. The fights over the hummus are not there either. Over the Pesach, right? And for people who go to hotels for Pesach, there's no hotel. So you don't have the concerts of a lot of Jewish communities. You have the concerts of Chol HaMoed. You have the outings of Chol HaMoed. Now all you have is Pesach. That's all you have. You have the mitzvah in the raw form. That's what you have. And how many times do we have to prove to ourselves throughout history that if we have to choose between one or the other, it's always been like this. People have always said to us in our history, either you give up Pesach or I'm going to take away all of your luxuries. Choose, right? Either you give up your Yiddishkeit or I'm going to take away everything you have. And Baruch Hashem, like my father said, don't even think about making comparisons of this situation to terrible eras in the past. But still, we are left with the mitzvah in its purest, rawest, undiluted, untampered with form. We're going to do a Seder because it's Pesach. We're going to do a Seder because it's the night of the Seder. It's like Morty Nemtsov is saying on the comments, this year we have an opportunity to do the mitzvah for nobody other than for Hashem, because we have nobody else to do it for.
I love Morty Nemtsov. Where has he been?
Morty Nemtsov is in Ojai, California. Yeah, in Ojai. But he's 100% correct. All the during the regular times, the mitzvah is being done for the fun of the mitzvah, for the celebration of the mitzvah, for the joy of the mitzvah, for the family that's going to come for the mitzvah, for the crowd that's going to be there, for the food of the mitzvah, right? Like the Shabbos, the food of and here you have
God.
So what do you do the mitzvah for? By the way, I want to tell you something. A lady said that she got very upset because she spoke to a neighbor or a friend or whatever. And the friend told her that, you know what, this year it's just too hard. She's not keeping Pesach.
Right.
And the truth is, I understand her. Because for too long and in too many ways, we have painted ourselves into a corner where if you don't have the fun and joy and luxury of the mitzvah, then what's the point of doing the mitzvah? If I don't have family coming to the Seder, so what am I doing a Seder for? How many people have told me, I used to keep Shabbos when I lived in Israel, when I lived in Brooklyn, and the streets were full of people walking to shul, and you felt Shabbos in the air. Then I kept Shabbos.
Then you keep
No,
Shabbos.
I don't feel Shabbos. It doesn't feel like Shabbos. This is not Shabbos. Dude, the mitzvah is not about the razzle dazzle. There is a mitzvah. It's just the raw mitzvah. And the mitzvah you do because it's a mitzvah. And this year, people do. So this one lady says she's not going to do Pesach. But for every woman who says that, there's 10 people who say, we're going to do it. I'm going to do it.
We have to. Those are the people we have to get to do Pesach. That was how we started this conversation. As students, I don't know what to do. And this is a message that we have to, tell people this is it. This is their opportunity of a lifetime. Seriously. I had someone today as well tell me they're not going to do Pesach. Too depressing by themselves, whatever. Anyway, this is Hashem should bless us all. What can I say?
I remember your Shver, Olav Hashalom, your father-in-law, Olav Hashalom, making the point that when a person does a mitzvah in an expensive, luxurious way, the Rebbe used to say this a lot about the Russian Jews, about the Jews who were behind the Iron Curtain, that if we think that because we live in freedom and we can do the mitzvahs with all of the trimmings, that we are doing the mitzvahs better than them. A Jew in a basement in the Soviet Union with a piece of maror and a piece of. But I have to go to a piece of maror matzah. My Zayde passed away. Achron Shal Pesach. His yahrzeit is coming up. Zayde Gordon, Olav Hashalom, you met him. Spent Shabbos with him. He passed away Achron Shal Pesach, last day of Pesach. So at the Seder, 7 days before that, I'm sitting and I'm watching how he's eating ground up matzah because he was very ill from a disease that ate up his stomach. So his digestive system was non-existent. So he asked them to grind up his matzah into like dust, so he'll be able to eat it with whatever, and grind up his maror, so that he'll be able to have some maror. He sat there slumped over by the Seder, quiet, didn't say a word. My uncle Mendy was there. Mendy, he was your teacher in London. Mendy was there. Mendy was trying to keep everybody's spirits up and saying Vertlach and singing. And it was Bubby and Zaidi and Mendy and me. And so I think to myself, who had a better Seder? The people that were celebrating with all of their Eineklach and Eineklach, and everybody had a comfortable seat, and everybody ate a kazayas and more than a kazayas of matzah, and everybody, or Folik Khan when he was in jail. And the box of matzah that his family sent him was right there. And he asked the guy to give him the matzah. The guy wouldn't give him the matzah. And it was the night of the Seder. And he wants to have matzah. It's Pesach. He wants to eat matzah. And the box is right there. But the bastard won't give him the matzah. So he says he cried bitter tears that night in his jail cell. So you ask yourself, who had a better Pesach? Who did Pesach better? You know what I say? Who wore it better? Who did it better? This guy in the jail cell who did not have a bite of matzah. The guy, the Mazeda who's sitting at the table and can't eat and can't sing and he can't look for the afikomen. Or all the people that sat in the lap of luxury and ate plenty of matzah and sang and enjoyed it and celebrated and danced with their children and their grandchildren and had a Seder for the ages. Who did Pesach better? Who did Pesach? Forget better. Who celebrated Pesach? And who was celebrating other things? Baruch Hashem, good things, happy things. But who was celebrating Pesach? It's a tough question, but we are living in a tough time. So it's time for tough questions. This guy sitting in his jail cell, crying to Hashem, asking him to please let him have a bite of matzah, and never ate a piece of matzah. That Pesach, he celebrated Pesach. He was celebrating Pesach. So this year, if you're by yourself or you're just with your immediate family and you don't have your big shindig and you don't have, so celebrate Pesach. It's still Pesach. Celebrate the Pesach, the fact that it is Pesach. Celebrate the holiness of the day. You don't have the trimmings of the day, so the holiness is going to shine forth more.
Yeah. We have to focus. Gotta focus. You know?
This all besides to the fact that Pesach is not stam as a holiday in Baltarai. Pesach is not stam like a holiday that's just floating in midair. Pesach happens to be a holiday with a purpose. The whole point of Pesach is that you're supposed to be communicating something to your children. That's the whole point of the Seder. The whole point of the Seder is V'higadet levincha. The book is called a Haggadah because you're supposed to be telling it to your children. You're supposed to be conveying the story to your children. You're supposed to be communicating the story to your kids. And the whole story of Pesach, in the step in the Seder, is called Magid. And you eat and you dip a vegetable in salt water so to convey the story to your children. And you hide afikomen so the kids will run around so that you can convey the story to your children. And we do 100 things so that the children will ask and we can tell them the answer. So Pesach is not stam a Yom Tov with the that has no context. There is a purpose to this Yom Tov. The purpose of the Yom Tov is to tell the next generation that God took us out of Egypt, and therefore we should be proud Jews, and we should celebrate, and we should say L'chaim, So if that's the purpose of Pesach, so then you have to ask yourself: have we ever had an opportunity for a more Pesach? We have never had a more powerful Pesach than the Pesach that we're going to have now, because the children will never forget this Pesach.
And if you're by yourself, then teach it to yourself.
But not only that, if you're by yourself, all the people that hear about how you celebrated the Seder, by yourself, you will have communicated the story of Pesach 1,000 times more than you will ever be able to communicate it next year in Yerushalayim. You won't be able to. It's not going to happen. The previous Rebbe said, when Mashiach comes, wir werden sich banken nach die Golosteg. We're going to be yearning for the days of exile because we're going to feel so silly how we wasted the opportunities that we had and we didn't capitalize. This is an opportunity. It's just the fact of life, whether we like it or not, whether it's pleasant to say it. There's tragedies happening, but it doesn't matter. This is our responsibility. This Pesach is an opportunity to accomplish the purpose of Pesach in a way that has never been accomplished before. My parents, the way your father is celebrating Pesach this year. When is the last time that I even thought about how my father celebrated Pesach? Or my mother? By Yossi or Zisi or Nechami or Yechanan or Matal or somebody. They celebrated Pesach. When's the last time my father communicated to me anything about Pesach? Garnished. But this year, when my parents are going to be celebrating Pesach by themselves in an apartment, and they're going to sit down to the Seder themselves, just like everyone's talking about the Seder that the Rebbe did by himself. Turns out the Seder that the Rebbe did by himself had more of an impact on the Olam than the Seder that the Rebbe didn't do by himself. And it makes sense. So this is really an opportunity to accomplish the purpose of Pesach in a way that we will not be able to accomplish it probably ever again.
Chaim Ali. Let's do this. We're on a private jet, and we have to nutzen Zeit. But gotta take this opportunity. L'chaim.
L'chaim. Guys, before we continue and sing a song, I want to tell you something about the rabbi that's sitting here Farbrengen with us.
Oh no.
The rabbi, did you invite Moshe?
I did, but he's busy.
He's doing a Facebook Farbrengen.
No, he's recording his Sikha of the week. Okay.
Rabbi Wilhelm, who's sitting here with us, has a few friends, and these few friends have been Farbrengen together for many years. It's been their favorite pastime to get together and Farbrengen. So, was it Hey Davis? This year...
It was Hey Davis.
This year, in January, so Yisroel was sitting with a couple of his friends, or a few of his friends, and they decided that they're going to, let's do something big. Yisroel will fill in the details, but I want to tell it with all of the admiration that I can muster, and I know you're gonna skip over all the nice parts. So he says him and his friends decide, let's do something big. Let's take all of the Rebbe's edited talks, the entire set of Likutei Sichos. How many volumes are there?
39 difficult ones. You have to explain
39 volumes. 39 volume set. 39 book set of the Rebbe's edited talks. These are basically the Rebbe's talks on the weekly Torah portion and on the current holidays. And let's get all of Chabad and people beyond Chabad on a system of studying the same talk every week, the same 2 or 3 talks every week, studying it, because this is not the easy in and out kind of insights. This is complex studies. Let's get everybody studying it on a regular basis in a way that will finish the whole set in 8 years, and then start over. Now, knowing these guys, they probably made this decision, each one laughing at the other louder than the guy before him about how crazy they are to think that they can pull something like this off. But they decided to pull it off. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, they pulled it off. And they pulled it off with such an amazing success. And it launched only a few weeks before coronavirus launched. And we always say that Hashem provides the solution before he poses the problem. And the question is only if you can find that solution. And I have no doubt that by divine providence and divine inspiration, Yisroel and his friend came up with this idea of getting everybody all excited about the Rebbe's edited talks and getting people studying, and that this was the remedy that came before the challenge of this terrible virus, because it has fortified people's neshamas, has brought people closer to each other, has brought people closer to the Torah, closer to God, and closer to the Rebbe. So I just want to say that it's not just anybody that God chooses to accomplish these kinds of human miracles. Say hello to everybody.
Hello.
You and him.
What?
So you and him.
No, it's me and him and a bunch of other people that are watching.
Where are they?
You can't see them. Only they can see us. They can see you. Want to say goodnight? No.
No. Okay.
Just don't want to. So Yisroel, I just want to say to you, I don't know what you did to deserve to be part of that miracle of the project of Likutei Sichos, but it is truly an amazing thing. And just for myself, I can say that it is a refuge for me during these times of craziness, that I am happy to know that I have not yet prepared the Sicha, because it means that I get to disappear into the Likutei Sichos. And it's a spiritual treasure. So kol hakavod.
Thank you, Eli. The only thing I want to say is that everybody who's watching better start doing it. They haven't started yet. Because if you go to the website, there's something for every single Jew. There's no Torah, and I don't believe in history, that, like the Rebbe's talks, that's every single one of them can be studied by the wisest, by the Chachim, by the Rasha, and by the Talmud and the Elishal, every single Jew, all 4 of the children. There's something for everybody.
I want to put the link over here, but I don't know how to spell Likutei. How do you spell Likutei?
Likkuttei. Project LikuteiSichos.org.
Morty Nemtsov over here said, I can't even begin to say how much I am grateful for this project. The most wild idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Morty. Morty.
And he was followed up by a man named Mordechai Friedman, who said, ditto, Morty.
Nice to hear you, Matel.
Yisroel, let's say a special l'chaim for the people like Hatzalah and doctors and nurses and people that are, like you said before, we have never had this kind of experience before in our lifetimes of real Mesidas Nefesh. And these people are really practicing self-sacrifice in a most serious way. I just spoke to Zalman Shapiro from Crown Heights. Yep. And the way he's talking about Hatzalah members is Hatzalah is the Orthodox ambulance service in New York and in Los Angeles. And all of the people that are taking care of coronavirus patients, it's true and literal selflessness. May God protect all of them, keep them healthy and strong. And when this is all over, we'll throw them a very, very nice party.
I think the government should also take over all their student debt.
These medical people.
Absolutely, every single one of them. Just get rid of it and let them move on in life. That's my opinion, at least. Not getting into politics, it's my opinion. They deserve it.
I think Mexico should pay for it. Okay, L'chaim. Morty said, my wife and I have taken this on together.
Oh, and Morty, L'chaim, probably you took it on because your wife took it on first. But it's good.
Okay, L'chaim to all of the people who are in the medical field, who are on the front lines, literally taking care of everybody. God bless you and protect you. May the Lord protect and defend you. May He always shield you from pain. May you grow to be in Israel a shining name. L'chaim.
All right, Ellie, I gotta go.
You have time for one more song, or you gotta go?
One more Negan for sure.
Okay, one more song, and then we'll go. What do you want to sing? Let's sing the Rebbe's Father's Niggun.
Chaim Eli, L'chaim, and that God should give a refuah shalema to all those who need it in a revealed way. Takef umbiyad mamish to every single one of them, and we should only be next time we Farbrengen should be for simchas. And Eli, let's keep doing this.
You got it. Everybody have a kosher and happy and healthy and safe Pesach. May everybody be healthy and have good news to share with everybody else. Yisroel, very, very much. Sei gesund und stark.
Thank you.